Nowhere did he actually say that the results of the Mixomoly experiment led me to special relativity and explains what's happening. Nowhere did he say that, and I challenge you to right. Okay, yeah. So Einstein absolutely said that. Yeah, the Mixomoly experiment, the results of that is what led me to my conclusions about special relativity, to where I was going with this.
You're not going to address the point.
Now that we know what the equation is, if we plug in the numbers for how fast the Earth is moving and the original length of the equipment, then what we actually find is the length contraction would only be 55 nanometers, which is 1/1000th the width of a human hair. That is not going to change the results with the magnitude that you require it to of. That's
the length contraction he's talking about that doesn't change the results is exactly how they reconciled the null result. So this is right where Austin and me, in fact, realized that he doesn't even understand the experiment. He doesn't even understand the results. He's arguing against the freaking thing that explains why they got a null result. It's like, dude, I did not realize he is that stupid. But just keep watching this. You don't want to miss this one. You want to probably watch this one through to the end. Because watch how he acts when he finds out, when he does understand it. Like, Austin's literally already told him a couple times, but he drills it home a couple more times. And you just gotta watch, man.
Practically imperceivable. So no, your argument about length contraction causing the results is wrong because the math of length contraction disagrees with you.
Okay, now this is objective, and I encourage. Now, what you'll see is the FTFE will just deny it. So I'm not trying to wake up the zealots that you modded the most toxic people I've ever seen in my entire life in your chat. I'm trying to wake up the audience, okay? In case you don't know. You just go research it. You won't get the truth from FTFE. This is objective. That Einstein said that the reason we did not get the predicted value is because there's supposed to be a phase shift. The light is supposed to be behind the other light. We didn't see that. So he claimed that the measuring apparatus physically contracted and time slowed down. And any attempt to use measuring rods or clocks to detect the motion of the Earth around the sun is a futile pursuit because of this illusion that takes place. So would you like to admit that relativity claims you cannot prove the Earth is moving around the Earth, from the Earth, because time slows down and matter contracts?
No, absolutely not, because the amount that time slows down and matter contracts is practically imperceivable.
So he doesn't want to admit that relativity does not state that. So to be clear,
from the Earth, because time slows down and matter contracts.
No, absolutely not, because the amount that time slows down and matter contracts is practically imperceivable. So much so.
So we're just going to have to accept the null result then, I guess, Craig. And I guess that Michelson-Morley shows that there is no motion, which is obvious to anybody with common sense. But he's backing it up. Yeah, the length contraction that they use to reconcile that result, no, it's imperceivable. It ain't enough. It's dingbat.
The equations when you use relativistic speeds versus non-relativistic equations actually give the same result. So no, relativity doesn't say that. And in fact, you can specifically measure the orbit of the Earth around the sun using relativistic Doppler measurements.
So there's other ways. So you can use Doppler measurements. I'm assuming he means measurements, taken from Earth. I'm assuming that, but that comes into play later on.
And I specifically got the paper for that earlier, so I can actually pass you that paper to have a look at.
So he's got that paper. Remember that too. So he's got that paper. He pulled it up, so he'll have it ready.
Showing that the orbit around the sun matches what we say it to. It is actually the Earth moving and nothing else, based on spectroscopy and Doppler measurements of distant things. So You can use
He's literally
relativity to
making
show
shit
that
up.
the Earth is orbiting around the sun. What you cannot use, which is what Einstein was talking about, is the Michelson-Morley experiment, the results of the Michelson-Morley experiment, or any experiment like the Michelson-Morley experiment. That is the only thing that Einstein was talking about. He never spoke about anything else. And when he said that, it was 10 to 15 years before the Michelson-Gale-Pierce experiment, which verified a lot of things from the Michelson-Morley experiment. So no, Witsit, you are completely wrong.
That goes to show you literally don't understand anything, because Michelson-Gale-Pearson is about sidereal rotation. It literally has nothing to do with Michelson-Morley trying to detect the orbit. Secondly, he's giving a speech talking about what made him come up with special relativity. He says Michelson-Morley in 87 is what started it, right? And then he came up with special relativity, which was like 18 years later or whatever, right? And so he came up with the idea that that matter contracts. He actually didn't come up with it. Lorentz did. He stole it and threw out the ether. Then he said time expands. Now that's one quote where he says no optical experiment can detect the motion of the Earth around the sun. And he has another quote explaining that to the question whether or not the motion of the Earth in space can be made perceptible in terrestrial experiments, we have already remarked that all attempts of this nature led to a negative result, all of them. And before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to become reconciled to this negative result. So, if you understand that, what was it about relativity that reconciled the negative results?
It allowed them to remove the aether and have relativistic calculations.
So that's how they reconcile the results. Is that it allowed them to move the ether? It allowed them to remove it. What a joke. Let me make sure I heard that right. So how did they reconcile the negative result?
What was it about relativity that reconciled the negative results?
It allowed them to remove the aether and have relativistic calculations able to explain things. That was it.
That shows you he's just going by a script. He doesn't understand it. And I mean, I've even had the same argument with him with not nearly the success Austin does here, but just I'm a butt out. Just play the key parts.
No, it's literally not the answer. See if you can try again. It's not that
You
they
also
removed...
kind of strawmanned me a little bit when you were talking there. I didn't say that the Michelson-Gale and the Michelson-Morley experiment were the same. I said some things from the Michelson-Gale-Pearson experiment verified some of the things from the Michelson-Morley experiment. And that was years after Einstein said what he...
And the quote is on the screen in the Discord they're in. For everybody who's watching the debate in that Discord channel, which I was one of them, we're looking at the quotes that Craig is denying. This one and another one. They're on screen while he's denying them. It's crazy. Can't make this shit up, man.
Said about not being able to detect the motion of the Earth.
All right, let's see if you can try again. So what was it about relativity specifically that allowed them to become reconciled with the negative result of all terrestrial experiments that attempted to detect the motion of the Earth around the sun?
Well, it's the fact that relativity gives us the position of not knowing if it's us or something else moving from, a reference frame point of view.
Why?
That's it.
Why?
Because you need other things to be able to determine that. That's it. That's
yeah, because time dilates and matter contracts, dingbat. He's already told you like 2 or 3 times.
Like we use other things as well. We don't just use relativity, but we can actually use relativistic effects to still measure the orbit of the Earth around the sun.
You just say use other things?
Yes, we can use other things as well as relativity. We don't just
so you don't understand it. You literally don't understand it. So the reason, I'll help you out here. The reason, I've already told you the answer though, but the reason is that relativity claims that time expands and that matter contracts relative to its motion. So any attempt to detect the motion of the Earth using any measuring apparatus comprised of matter within space, and so using any distance or any attempt to use anything involving time, will show you a result that looks like the Earth is stationary because time slows down when in motion and the matter contracts when in motion. That is how relativity reconciled the negative results.
No, again, you're mixing up things, and talking about relativistic speeds when there is no relativistic speeds. The Earth doesn't have relativistic speeds. The time, the contraction and the time dilation on Earth is going to be so minimal that it's not going to affect the equipment in the way that you are saying. Einstein.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to accept the no result then. Idiot.
Didn't use those words that you are saying in the context that you are saying that he did. Just the sensitivity of the equipment.
So allegedly the Earth orbits around the sun just under 20 miles a second, and the Michelson-Morley was sensitive enough to detect as low as 2 miles a second.
So it's sorry, I've got a quote here that I'm just looking at my notes from earlier. So bear with me just 1 second. Sorry, I want to get the correct thing to make sure that I've said it right. Oh, there it is.
While you guys have a quick pause, we got about 7 minutes left. Open Q&A. If you guys want to extend it from there, you can both agree to, or we can go to questions after that.
Where is it? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. You interrupted me there, saying, what was I looking for, Witsit?
Yeah, so my question is, you said, first of all, it depends on the sensitivity of the apparatus, but the apparatus was sensitive enough to detect 2 miles a second when they claim the Earth's orbiting 20 miles a second. And the question is, if we were using interferometry in Michelson-Gell-Pearson and it matches the prediction of sidereal rotation within 98% accuracy every time, then how come the same methodology of interferometry doesn't detect the orbit?
Right, so in orbit, there's no centrifugal acceleration measurable because the centrifugal acceleration in the reference frame of the orbiting body is cancelled by gravity exactly or vice versa at each molecule, ignoring the very tiny tidal effects. So there's no net acceleration that exists in the reference frame, aka you're weightless, which means that you need something that isn't directly on the Earth to be able to measure the motion of the Earth, if you know what I mean.
So then we've come full circle to you conceding that you have to be off the Earth to actually detect the motion of the Earth around the sun. And you just claimed earlier and last time that we spoke that you can use a gyro on the Earth to do it. And now your quote actually refutes that position.
Well, I'm not claiming that right now. The gyro that would measure it wouldn't actually be on the Earth. You would need it to be tidally locked to the sun, moving at the same speed as Earth. But that's why I then referred to the measurements of Doppler, the relativistic Doppler measurements are using radio horn telescopes to measure the orbit of the Earth.
Oh, I get it. So I need one of them the tidally locked off Earth gyroscopes. Yeah, that's it.
Around.
Boo. Pickle wagon.
One, Bob, you're only presupposing that in a different location compared to one location,
you measure
it's
it.
going to be leaning from that second location.
You measure it.
Leaning plumb bob.
Oh, you say you can't measure it, but it's been done. You can measure
a leaning plumb bob.
by reciprocal zenith angles. It's
Angles.